Ahoy and welcome, this is Admiral. Mining in AoE2 is extremely simple in terms of mechanics and visuals, with little more than a hint of the intensive prospecting, delving, and smelting that characterized the extraction and refining of precious metals, and with all natural gold and stone conveniently lying around in surface piles just waiting to be broken apart and picked up.
And they call it a mine. A mine!
While the existing implementation is a reasonable, user-friendly abstraction that should remain as is given the intuitive and readable nature of the game, it's certainly intriguing to consider what we might encounter if we went beneath the superficial and dug a little deeper, but not too deep.
The dwarves delved too greedily and too deep. You know what they awoke in the darkness.
Some other games have very interesting and memorable features related to mining. As one example, a very old game series called The Settlers had a system where you would send geologists into mountains who would inspect the ground and report which minerals were found there. You could then build mines, which would work until those resources were exhausted, and minerals obtained would be refined and then manufactured into a variety of finished products. Obviously, that level of complexity and the slew of new mechanics needed are beyond the scope of this discussion, and the scope of baseline AoE2. So we don't have to go full Settlers, much less full Minecraft, despite the best efforts of the people behind that strange event mod crossover we had last year. But with the new Chronicles DLC comes the prospect of prospecting for gold on the water with the new oyster objects, and more broadly, a testing ground for new mechanics. So today we'll be exploring the idea of building mines, and especially gold mines, or other resources for which gold is an abstraction, which you might consider an appropriate feature for a new civilization bonus, a new game mode, or just a mod. Speaking of mods, this will feature as one of the wonder bonuses of a civilization in an upcoming edition of my ongoing Wonder Powers mod with Robbie Lava. I also have to mention Empirecraft as the one existing mod I'm aware of that has a buildable mine already. And the use of the Rock Church graphic as a massive pit mine is a very clever use of existing assets. And in general, that mod is very creative, so I can recommend checking it out.
Mandatum, liking. Mandatum, subscribing.
Now, there are several ways to make buildable mines work, and the simplest would be to pay a certain amount of resources to place a standard Gaia mine anywhere. Lest this appear to be an infinite money glitch, or at least more so than relics or federias, it could be balanced out by costing another scarce resource, say stone in the case of gold mines. Initially, it would be worthwhile to use excess mine stone, or even trade for stone to build a gold mine, but eventually rising market prices for stone would limit the viability of constructing more gold mines. Suppose it takes 250 stone to build the standard 800 gold mine. This would be roughly viable until stone prices exceed 320 gold, although in practice it would fall off sooner when accounting for build and collection time. Constructed mines should probably have a somewhat higher gather rate to represent the infrastructure you built, and to make them worth considering in the mid-game when they're in competition with the free natural mines, or trading for gold at the market before prices become too extreme. You could also have stone mines built for a gold cost, but should not have both, for obvious reasons. There are of course other ways to balance this, such as build limits or even terrain restrictions. One creative way to do this would be to limit mines to being built on an uncommon rock terrain, which would be replaced with an unbuildable terrain after the mine was exhausted, so that map control would still be an important factor, and the availability of the buildable and depletable terrain would impose an organic constraint on how many mines you could build. You could even have these buildable mines function differently from natural mines, perhaps as a shaft or tunnel that could be garrisoned with villagers to generate gold until the mine was exhausted. Another method would be to have freely buildable mines whose effectiveness would require a large area, and building other mines too close would limit their efficiency. although that type of mechanic is probably a little radical for AoE2. Speaking of radical mechanics, if I wanted to go crazy with this, which I don't really, but it bears mentioning for the sake of brainstorming, I would suggest mine shafts that would allow units to travel underground to other mine shafts, like the dwarf and goblin tunnels in Battle for Middle-earth. However, I think that would be pretty silly as an AoE2 Civ bonus or general feature, although maybe it could work in a custom campaign.
We're gonna pass over the mountain! Let us go under it!
Now, whether or not buildable mines are ever added as a civilization bonus or mode feature, it surely wouldn't hurt to have some new visuals to represent mines and mining equipment, and other types of valuable resources besides gold. While I don't think we ever need to add a fully new resource type to the base game's 4 cardinal material resources, there's certainly room for additional ways of representing existing resources. Just as there are a variety of natural food sources, from fish to boars and berries, each of which provides visual and gameplay variety and the opportunity for many distinct food-related bonuses, you could imagine a variety of precious natural resources that can be approximated as gold for collection purposes, as is the case for the new oyster object. At the top of my list are silver, gem, and jade mines, but you could also picture amber, spices, ivory, turquoise, salt, furs, seashells, and more, as additional natural gold sources. That, if nothing else, would add a lot of flavor to scenarios and campaigns. Chronicles even added grapevines as eye candy, which you could mod into collectible resources yielding food and gold. But I digress, and may have an in-depth look at some of these other potential resources in the future. But these items could just be cosmetic variants of the existing gold mines or oysters, or they could have some functional differences, different sizes, gold amounts, and gather rates, and possible new civilization bonuses distinct from literal gold mining. It would even be simple enough to have sprites for villagers carrying silver or emeralds, as each would only require one new graphic for the miner unit. So what do you think about the idea of buildable mines, whether of gold or an approximate resource? Could this be a bonus for a new or existing civilization famously at the forefront of medieval mining technology? Or do you think it's more suitable as a feature of a separate game mode or mod, with only cosmetic reskins of gold mines available for scenario and campaign creators? Either way, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. That's all for today, and thanks for watching. This has been me mining my mind and mulling over many medieval methods of massing mounds of minerals. Till next time.